50 years, that's how long death held a grudge. Now imagine you're on that list. From that first fiery premonition to the final fatal train wreck, I'm showing you your escape route for every single kill in Final Destination Bloodlines. Your survival guide starts now. The first step to not dying is liking this video and subscribing, because how are you gonna survive if you don't watch it? I don't make the rules, my dog Flapjack does. All right, let's rewind way back. 1968. The music was louder. I wouldn't say it's better, but it was louder. The pants were wider, and apparently building codes were more of a suggestion. You find yourself at the grand opening of the Skyview Tower. Fancy, right? Top of the world, ma. You're with your date. Maybe Paul, maybe Pauline, doesn't matter what their name is. They're probably not making it to dessert. The ambience is thick with hairspray and the dawning realization that this restaurant is suspiciously similar to that needle thing in Seattle, which, let's be honest, also looks like it was designed by someone who enjoys a good gamble with gravity. Suddenly, your companion, let's call her Iris for argument's sake, because, well, it is Iris, gets that far off look. Not the "is that my ex over there" look, more like the "I'm currently witnessing multiple gruesome deaths" look. It's the Final Destination premonition. She sees it all: a chandelier shard, a seemingly innocent crack in the glass floor, which, by the way, whose bright idea was it for a glass floor that high up? Were they actively trying to tempt fate? Then a gas leak, a spark, and boom. The Skyview Tower turns into the Skyview Plummet. Everyone becomes a screaming, flaming pancake. Not ideal for a first date. So Iris, bless her heart, starts screaming, "We gotta get out, it's all coming down." Now, if you were there and someone started yelling about impending doom, what's your move? Most people in these situations freeze. Or worse, they pull out their primitive 1960s phone brick to film it. Don't be those people. This is your first survival tip for the Skyview Tower disaster. Believe the crazy person, especially if they look genuinely terrified and aren't trying to sell you essential oils. When someone with that "I've seen the abyss" glint in their eyes tells you to run, you run. You don't ask questions. You don't finish the shrimp cocktail. You hoof it. Iris manages to get a bunch of people out. She averts the immediate catastrophe. Hooray! Or not hooray, as it turns out, because death, as we'll soon learn, is a terrible loser and holds a grudge tighter than my ex-wife Becky, who took all 18 of my children. She saved them from the fire, but she just put them and everyone they will ever be related to on death's special little list. What could you have done differently if you were Iris? Or just a guess, besides the obvious "don't go to the restaurant built like a dare"? Once the premonition hits, clarity and speed are key. Identify the exits. Don't just yell "fire." People hesitate. Yell something specific and urgent. "Gas leak, it's about to blow." This way, create a clear plan if you can. Most people will do what you want them to do if you yell loud enough and are direct enough. Remember that in all aspects of life. Shove a table if you must. In 1968, there are no sprinklers sophisticated enough for this. No emergency overrides that will stop death's Ruby Goldberg machine once it's in motion. Your only real weapon is that brief window of foreknowledge. The biggest mistake here, from a long-term survival perspective for your bloodline, was Iris surviving at all. Grim, I know, but that's the premise we're working with. By saving those lives, she's signed a multi-generational death warrant. But in the moment, for your immediate survival in that tower, listen to the screaming visionary. Find the nearest exit that isn't currently on fire or about to be, and don't stop until you're at least 5 blocks away and covered in someone else's spilled champagne. And maybe, just maybe, consider not having kids for a while. Or ever. Just a thought. So, fast forward a cool 50 years, Iris, our original "nope, not dying today" champion, is now living her golden years. And by golden years, I mean she's a recluse in a cabin that looks like it was decorated by a paranoid, mentally ill squirrel. She's terminally ill, which, you know, is usually death's cue to just chill and wait. But death, as we've established, is not known for its chill. It's more of a get it done and make it ironic kind of entity. Iris has spent decades basically becoming the world's foremost, and probably only, expert in death's shenanigans. She's got charts, she's got theories, she's probably got a tinfoil hat somewhere. Her granddaughter, Stefani, our new protagonist who's been having some gnarly nightmares, shows up. Iris decides it's time for the big reveal. "Honey, our whole family's cursed because I didn't feel like becoming a human torch in 1968. Surprise!" You can imagine how well that went over. Probably a lot of blinking from Stefani. Maybe a polite, Grandma, are you still taking your meds? Now, Stefani, being a modern youth, is likely skeptical. A generational death curse, Grandma. Did you read that on the internet? So Iris, in a moment of what I can only describe as a bold and incredibly ill-advised proof of concept, decides to show her. She knows she's on Death's VIP list. She knows her cabin is probably the only thing keeping her from becoming a human weather vane. So what does she do? She steps outside to prove a point. You know, some people bake cookies to bond with their grandkids. Iris opts for demonstrating the cruel nature of fate. You know, different strokes for different folks. If you were Iris and your goal was to convince your granddaughter of a terrifying multi-generational curse, there are probably better ways than what happened. A PowerPoint presentation, maybe, a strongly worded letter, interpretive dance, I don't know. Stepping out into the open when you know death is basically playing whack-a-mole with your family tree is a choice. A very Final Destination choice. The survival tip here, if you're the one trying to explain the curse, is maybe don't use yourself as live bait. And if you're Stefani and your grandma says, watch this, I'm about to get smoked, maybe, just maybe, suggest she stay inside and you'll just take her word for it. Grandma, I believe you. I know the squirrel outside has been putting stuff in your drinks. I know you're not crazy. So the weather vane, which I'm sure was just minding its own business, suddenly decides to become an instrument of doom. Boom, impalement, right in front of Stefani. Well, Grandma, point made. Gruesomely, but made. Stefani is now, presumably, a believer and probably traumatized. But hey, at least she knows what's going on. The real tragedy here, besides the obvious grandma shish kebab, is that Iris knew. She had the knowledge, she had the fortified cabin, but her desire to prove the curse, to make Stefani understand the stakes, overrode her own survival instincts. Or maybe, being terminally ill, she figured, might as well make it dramatic and useful. If you're in this situation and you have a safe zone, the rule is generally fucking stay in the safe zone. Don't go out for a stroll to test cosmic theories. That's what grad students are for. So Iris is out, but she left behind her notes, her research, her 50 years of death stalking homework. Thanks, Grandma. Nothing says I love you like a detailed instruction manual on how everything you know and love is trying to kill you. Next on Death's hit parade is Uncle Howard. We're at a classic family barbecue. You know the scene, like a friendly family get-together type thing. And speaking of family get-togethers, I went and saw this movie last night, and there was a family in front of me. They brought a 1-year-old baby to Final Destination. Who does that? How bad of a parent do you have to be to bring an infant to Final Destination? That makes no sense to me at all. Worst of all, it gets so much worse. I feel like a Karen ranting about this right now, but it gets so much worse because they let this baby crawl throughout the entire theater like they're on an airplane or whatever. They were that annoying family on the airplane, but they were in a movie theater. And you might be asking, it was probably just a well-mannered baby that didn't cry at all. It's Final Destination. Do you know how loud that movie is? How many people die, blow up, and just kaboom? The baby started crying every second it could and was like crawling through the stands. I don't even, I can't even explain how crazy that was to see. If you think I am in the wrong here for thinking this, let me know in the comments. But it's absolutely nuts to bring a baby to Final Destination. Sue me. Anyways, back to Uncle Howard. You know the scene. Someone's dad is wearing socks with sandals. There's a bowl of coleslaw that's been sitting in the sun for just a little too long, and the air is thick with the smell of charcoal and impending doom. It's the American dream, really, if your dream involves a high probability of bizarre accidental death. Now, if we're at this barbecue and you're part of this cursed bloodline, your spidey senses should be tingling off the charts. Every seemingly innocent object is a potential murder weapon. That spiked rake under the trampoline where the kids are doing backflips, that's not just poor garden tool storage. That's act one of a tragedy. That blender or that glass of lemonade or whatever the hell they were drinking that's got a big glass shard in it. And the lawnmower just sitting there humming quietly to itself. Oh, it's got plans. Big, grassy, bloody, mulchy plans. The problem with these scenarios is that everything seems normal until it very suddenly isn't. Howard, bless his unsuspecting heart, is probably just trying to flip some burgers, maybe tell a bad dad joke. Is that spatula part of an elaborate cosmic revenge plot that was made by death? And that's how death gets you. It lulls you into the false sense of security with lukewarm hot dogs and the distant sound of an ice cream truck. So, what's your survival strategy here? If you're on the list, you become the world's most annoying safety inspector. You walk around pointing out hazards like that annoying Karen.
Excuse me, Uncle Howard, is that rake supposed to be a child launching impalement device? Or did you just forget where the shed is? Brenda, love the smoothie idea, but that blender looks like it wants to star in a Shaw movie. Maybe we just have chips.
You'll be unpopular, you'll be unliked, people will avoid making eye contact, but you might just stay alive a little longer. Or they'll just think you're a jerk and ignore you, which in this franchise is also highly probable. The chain reaction starts. It always does. Maybe a kid on the trampoline finally dislodges that rake. Maybe someone trips knocking over a killer blender. Whatever it is, it culminates in Howard versus the runaway lawnmower. And folks, the lawnmower always wins. It's like a tiny, angry Zamboni of death. Howard gets, well, let's just say he got a really low taper faded haircut in his skull. He gets thoroughly mulched. Could you have stopped it? Well, once the Ruby Goldberg machine of doom is in full swing, it's tough. Your best bet is prevention. Before the barbecue even starts, you do a sweep. Unplug an evil blender. Maybe accidentally run over the lawnmower with your car before anyone arrives. Oops, clumsy me. Guess we're not mowing today or ever again. Again, you might not get invited to next year's barbecue, but there might not be a next year's barbecue for you if you don't. The key takeaway from Howard's unfortunate landscaping incident is that death loves to use the mundane. It loves to turn your safe suburban haven into a slaughterhouse. So next time you're at a family gathering and things start to feel a little too perfect, maybe just excuse yourself. Go sit in the car with the doors locked and a fire extinguisher, just in case. Alright, so Uncle Howard has been tragically re-landscaped. The family is understandably a bit on edge. You think at this point they just all move into separate padded rooms and communicate exclusively through carrier pigeons. But no, that would make for a very boring short movie. And a very boring video for you. Let's be honest, you're here for my genius creativity, aren't you? Don't lie, I see you, I know you think I'm a genius. Just kidding, I'm an idiot and I'm a disappointment to my parents, so that's that. So next up on the family chopping block, everyone thinks it's Erik, Julia's brother. He's the tattoo artist's cousin. There's a fire at his shop, another classic thing that Def would probably do, but Erik, apparently thanks to his edgy leather jacket, which is apparently flame resistant, or maybe just dumb luck, he survives. He's a bit burnt, he probably smells like a barbecue, but he's alive. But this is where things get tricky for you. You're trying to survive in this family. Everyone, including our protagonist Stefani, is now hyper-focused on Erik. Protect Erik! Erik is next! Wrap Erik in bubble wrap and feed him through a tube! They're all running around trying to shield him from falling anvils, rogue pigeons, aggressive street performers, you know, anything that could possibly kill him. But here's the kicker, the little detail that death just loves to exploit. Erik, it turns out, isn't Howard's biological son. Plot twist, Mama Brendan had a little secret. Let's just say she was popular on her street. This means, according to Death's very particular rules of murder, Erik gets a temporary hall pass. He's not next on the Bloodline shopping block. Who is? His sister Julia. Poor, unsuspecting Julia. So, if you are Julia in this scenario, what's your play? Well, first off, it would help if your mom wasn't such a harlot. But your actual survival tip here? If you suspect you might be next, but everyone is focused on your sibling, well, don't assume they're right. While everyone is playing bodyguard for Erik, you need to be your own bodyguard. Hell, if you're in this situation and you know you're next after your brother anyways, I would still probably prioritize yourself, because you gotta save yourself, right? You gotta be extra vigilant, question everything. That dude playing Stairway to Heaven on the accordion? It's probably fine, but that garbage truck that seems to be following you a little too closely and has a driver that's swiping through Tinder, yeah, I would probably look out for him. And that's exactly what happens. While Team Protect Erik is busy trying to save him from nothing, Death, with its impeccable timing and love for irony, sends a garbage truck after Julia. And not just any garbage truck, we're talking the compactor. She gets, well, recycled in a very permanent and squishy way. It's a truly awful way to go. One minute you're worried about all your family drama, the next you're becoming intimately familiar with what the inside of a garbage truck looks like. Lesson here is that death loves confusion. It thrives on misinformation. If you're relying on others to know who's next and they've got their facts wrong, you're basically a sitting duck. Or in Julia's case, a soon-to-be squished duck. So do your own research, check your birth certificates, and maybe, just maybe, avoid walking near large, heavy machinery when your family has a 50-year-old death curse. Just a suggestion. It's the little things, you know? The attention to detail. That's what separates us, the survivors, from, well, Pancake Julia. Alright, so Erik, our resident tattoo artist and accidental non-target, is feeling pretty good after Julia is dead. Well, as much as you can, you know, given the situation. He dodged a fire, his sister just got turned into a human panini by a garbage truck, which, you know, tragic, but also he's still alive, and he's probably thinking, hey, maybe this whole deaths list thing isn't so bad if you're not actually on it. Oh, Erik, sweet, naive, heavily pierced in the wrong places, Erik, you just had to go and get cocky, didn't you? So the family, or what's left of it, gets some advice from our old friend, William Bludworth. You remember Bludworth, tall, creepy, knows way too much about dying. He suggests a couple of, let's call them creative loopholes to get off death's naughty list. One of these involves dying and being revived. Erik, bless his stupid heart, hears this and thinks, genius, I'll help my brother Bobby do that. Because what could possibly go wrong with intentionally giving someone a severe allergic reaction in a hospital, which is a place that famously has no hazards at all. Now, if you are Erik and you've just been told that meddling in death's affairs is generally a bad idea, as evidenced by, oh, I don't know, everyone else in your family dying, your survival instinct should be screaming. Maybe sit this one out, champ. But no, Erik decides he's going to be a hero. He's going to save Bobby by nearly killing him. The logic is, well, it's Final Destination logic. It doesn't have to make sense, it just has to be gruesome. The plan is set. They're at a medical facility. Bobby's about to have his near-death experience, courtesy of a strategically administered peanut. Erik, meanwhile, is just kinda there, being supportive, kinda being pushy, and also being covered in a quite frankly astonishing amount of metal. Piercings everywhere. Face, ears, nipples, and probably not a spot we need to talk about on a family-friendly channel about horrific deaths. Is there irony there? No, but I think this content is fun for the whole family. You see where this is going, right? You're smart. You're probably already yelling at your screen. Erik, no! Not the giant magnet room! Why do you have that in your dick? Because of course, there's an MRI machine nearby. A big, powerful, don't bring your cars in here unless you want them embedded to the ceiling MRI machine. And it's malfunctioning. Or maybe death is just really good at hacking hospital equipment. Either way, the giant magnet thingy turns on, and Erik, with all of his collections of piercings, suddenly becomes very, very attractive to the machine. He gets yanked violently into the machine, along with the metal wheelchair he brought into the room. It's a bad way to go, folks. Impaled by medical equipment with a side of extreme magnets. It's pretty gruesome, honestly, looking back at it. And the irony, Erik wasn't even on death's active list anymore. He was safe-ish. But by trying to interfere, by trying to play puppet master with Bobby's fate, he basically painted a giant metallic bullseye on himself and re-signed him up for death's hit list. So how do you survive this? Well, the survival trip here is pretty straightforward. If you've somehow lucked your way off of death's list, for the love of all that is holy, don't get cocky. Don't try to be a hero. Just buy a lottery ticket, count your blessings, and maybe invest in some non-metallic jewelry. And for fuck's sake, stay away from large magnets if you have metal in your dick. That should be general life advice. So while Erik is off becoming a modern art installation in the radiology department, let's not forget about Bobby. Big Sweet probably shouldn't be listening to his half-brother's insane plans, Bobby. He's the one who's actually supposed to be dying and coming back. All part of Erik's brilliant, not at all flawed scheme to cheat death. The allergic reaction is kicking in. He's probably having a hard time breathing. It's all going according to plan. A terrible, terrible plan. Now you're Bobby. You're in a hospital, a place of healing, surrounded by medical professionals who are currently very distracted by other stuff. You'd think, okay, worst case scenario, I get a shot of epinephrine. Good as new. But this is Final Destination. Good as new isn't really in Death's vocabulary. Death prefers fucking dead. So in the chaos of Erik's magnetic departure, something else is happening. Something small. Something seemingly insignificant. A nearby vending machine, you know, the kind that dispenses lukewarm Coca-Cola, decides it's had enough. It's probably seen too much. It's tired of just being kicked by people that are mad at it, and one of its internal components, a coil or a spring, something that should absolutely not be capable of independent flight, decides to make a break for it. Why? Well, magnets. If you are Bobby, and you're already struggling with an allergic reaction, your situational awareness is probably not at its peak. you're focused on, breathing. You're not expecting attack from a rogue spring. Well, this is where death gets you with sheer absurdity. You prepare for the big threats, the obvious dangers. You don't prepare for the vengeful vending machine. So this little metal spring, with the accuracy of a heat-seeking missile, finds its target, Bobby's head. Drills right in, instant lights out. No revival, no cheating death, just death by vending machine. It's not glamorous, it's not heroic, it's just deeply, deeply unfortunate. And a little bit silly, if we're being honest, which we are. Because if you can't laugh at death by a vending machine, what can you laugh at? Don't answer that. It's a rhetorical question for legal reasons. Please do not say anything weird in the comments or else I will get sued. Please don't get me sued. I am broke. The survival tip here, well, it's a tough one. Maybe don't participate in weird schemes by your dumb brother. Maybe don't listen to your family at all. They're all dumb. Also, perhaps maintain a healthy distrust of anything that is metal near a magnet. Poor Bobby. He was just trying to help or be helped. It all got very confusing, honestly. And that screaming baby I talked about earlier, I was more focused on that. And then it got very pointy. All right, so now the Campbell family is dropping like flies at a bug zapper convention. Erik and Bobby have just punched their tickets to the great beyond in a very funny fashion. What's left of the crew, Mom Darlene, Stefani, and Charlie decide quite reasonably that maybe sticking around town isn't the best plan. Their brilliant idea, head to Grandma Iris's old cabin. You know, the one where Grandma got shish kebabbed by a weather vane. Solid plan. What could possibly be safer than returning to the scene of another death by death? So they pile into an RV, because when you're being hunted by an invisible force of cosmic doom, nothing says unsuspicious escape like a giant lumbering house on wheels. And just for a cameo, they almost get hit by a log truck. Fans of Final Destination 2 will understand that reference. I thought that was pretty cheeky. And they switch who's driving because the mom is set to die next. Now, if you are Darlene and you're trying to get your kids to safety, your primary focus should be on, driving safely. But you're on death's hit list, so you let your little daughter drive instead. And what does she do? Well, she ends up putting y'all in a ditch. In the chaos, Stefani gets her seatbelt jammed. Classic. Seatbelts saving lives unless death has other plans. So Stefani is stuck in her seat, but the main focus is getting Mom inside the cabin so she can be safe, and that way the curse is halted. Well, when she does decide to go in, she is met with a door that explodes in fire. We think she is dead, but no, she is still alive. She then says, "Go Charlie, save Stefani. Forget about your old dear mom, who is currently standing in a very suspicious spot where a giant pole is going to come down and impale you." And that's the kicker. While Darlene is busy being a hero, a nearby lamppost, which was weakened by the RV crash, decides it's time to retire. It falls right on top of Darlene and impales her in front of her son. Merry Christmas, Charlie. The survival tip here, if you're Darlene, well, it's tough because her instincts were good. Save the kids, but maybe, just maybe, after you tell Charlie to save Stefani, take a half step to the left, away from the giant teetering metal pole of doom. Come on, situational awareness, people. Even when you're being a hero, check your surroundings. Death loves to punish the heroes, especially if they're not paying attention. It's a tragic end for Darlene. She came back to save her family, and in a way, she did save Charlie from the immediate RV danger. But she couldn't save herself from death, because this is a Final Destination movie. So, Mom Darlene has been tragically dissected by a giant lamppost. Rough day, but little brother Charlie, bless his heroic heart, manages to pull Stefani from the sinking RV. She looked like she was a goner, drowned and done. But Charlie, channeling his inner lifeguard, or maybe just really not wanting to be the only one left, gives her CPR and it works. She coughs, she sputters, she's alive, they did it, they beat death. One of Bludworth's rules was die and be revived, right? Stefani basically took a quick dip in the river Styx and came back with a souvenir cough. A week passes, a whole week. In Final Destination time, that is like a century. Stefani and Charlie are probably feeling pretty good. Maybe a little traumatized, sure, because they've seen more family members die in horrible ways than most people see and will ever. But they're alive, the curse is broken, and it's time to go to prom. Because what's a better way to celebrate cheating death than awkward slow dancing and a bunch of kids vaping in a bathroom? Well, Charlie's going to get his date, and we find out his date's dad is a doctor. Small talk happens. "So Stefani, I heard you had a bit of a scare last week. Almost drowned, eh?" And then the doctor, in a moment of casual, soul-crushing medical accuracy, who's got to be right all the time, says, "Technically, your heart never actually stopped. You weren't clinically dead. Well, cue the record scratch. Cue the dawning horror. Cue Death rubbing his greasy fucking hands together and picking this moment to strike. If you are Stefani or Charlie at this moment, this is when you realize that Death is not just a force of nature. He's an evil, rule-obsessed jerk. It's like that one teacher who always said I was gonna go nowhere in life. Well, guess what, Mr. Stevens? I now have a YouTube channel, and I make fun of myself online. Who's stupid now? Anyways, Death's like, oh, you almost died? Sorry, almost doesn't count. And just as the realization sinks in, what happens? The penny. That penny we mentioned earlier, the one Grandma Iris took from that kid at the Skyview Tower back in '68, the one she kept taped in her journal for 50 years, probably thinking it was some kind of good luck charm, or maybe just a reminder of her original sin. This penny, which has been patiently waiting for its moment to shine, rolls free. It wedges itself into the mechanisms of a nearby railroad track, because of course there's a railroad track right next to their house. Why wouldn't there be? Also, I want to take one moment right now and say, no doctor is buying a house right next to a railroad track. Nobody that rich is gonna live next to a railroad track. If you don't know anything about real estate next to railroad tracks is lower in cost because people don't want to live there because it's noisy as hell and your house shakes all the time. So that's a little bit of a plot hole, but whatever. A train derails, a train carrying massive logs, because why just have a train derailment when you can have a train derailment with logs? The logs come crashing down, right on Stefani and Charlie, crushed instantly. Prom night ruined, bloodline ended, Death wins, flawless victory, fatality, Mortal Kombat, Kung Fu Panda. The survival tip here? I don't know. Honestly, at this point, you're fucked. If you think you found a loophole, double check the fine print, triple check it, get a lawyer, get a priest, get a second opinion from a different creepy mortician, and maybe, just maybe, if your grandma kept a cursed penny for 50 years, don't go to the prom where it's gonna be nearby. I don't know, okay? There's no way to cheat Death here. These two are just screwed. I don't have any advice for you. Poor Stefani and Charlie. They came so close. They played by what they thought were the rules, but Death, it seems, always has an ace up its sleeve, or a penny in his pocket. So now the entire Campbell Reyes bloodline has been effectively pruned from the tree of life. Stefani and Charlie became a prom night tragedy, proving that even when you think you've followed the rules, Death is that annoying gamer who always knows the cheat codes you don't. It's frustrating. You, watching this, are probably thinking, is there any hope? Am I just doomed to die in Final Destination? Well, I'm here to tell you there is a way to beat this. Let's go back to our old pal Bludworth. He didn't just offer up the die and be revived plan that Stefani almost pulled off. Oh no, he had another, slightly more morally ambiguous suggestion, and it's a classic. Take a life. That's right, if Death is coming for you, you can offer it a substitute. The idea is if you kill someone, you get their years they had left. Death gets its quota filled and it moves on. Simple, except the whole becoming a murderer part. That tends to complicate things. Your therapy bills will skyrocket, and good luck explaining to your future date your history. Now, if you are faced with this choice, it's a tough one. On the one hand, survival. On the other hand, a lifetime of guilt, possibly jail time, and the knowledge that Death won in the end, just in a different way. It's not exactly a win-win. Plus, who do you pick? Do you just find some random jerk on the street? Do you pick someone close to you? Do you pick someone easy or hard? What do you do? And honestly, I don't know what I would do, and I want you guys to decide. Let me know in the comments which of the options you're gonna pick, because this is probably the one way you're gonna survive, because the revive and comeback thing is very inconsistent. So let me know who you would pick down below in the comments, and like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos teaching you how to survive other different horror movies. And if you like this video, you should click the video on screen now because it'll be just as good.